The creation story of Indian Country Today starts 40 years ago in Pine Ridge, South Dakota. Tim Gallego was the founder and editor. He named his newspaper the Lakota Times and provided the news for the Oglala Lakota.
Well, we were Lakota Times up until about 1989 for about 8 years. And at that point, I started getting requests from, we were really strong on the Pine Ridge Reservation. I mean, our paper was selling out every week on the reservation. And pretty soon Rosebud wanted us to start delivering papers at least there, so we set up drops and started delivering Rosebud. And then pretty soon Cheyenne River, Crow Creek, and pretty soon we were on all the reservations in the state of South Dakota, all 9.
Years ago, Gallego and his staff were writing about the trauma of boarding schools. And soon, people across the country were subscribing to his newspaper.
Then we expanded beyond that. We had to start getting a lot of readers in New Mexico and Arizona and other places, Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota. So we thought, well, the name Lakota is strictly, like for our paper here, it's like the Navajo Times is for the Navajo people. But now we're more of a national paper, so we came up with the name Indian Country Today. In fact, Avis Little Eagle came up with that name. Yeah. So we made the change.
After a few decades, Gallego sold the paper to the Oneida Nation. Ownership changed again when the Oneidas gifted it to the National Congress of American Indians. And then Mark Trahant was brought on board to guide the news outlet into the digital age. At the start of 2019, there were 4 employees of Indian Country Today. By the end of that year, there were several more. And we continue to grow both our broadcast side and our digital side. Today, our parent company is IndiJ Public Media. We are a nonprofit news organization, and that's why we need your help. Now more than ever, news relevant to our people is needed. Indian Country Today launched a weekday newscast at the start of the pandemic to keep tribal leaders and citizens informed about the coronavirus. This is the country's first television newscast produced by an all-Indigenous news staff. And despite the pandemic, we continue to grow, both in our staffing and our reporting. Our main office is in Phoenix, Arizona, and we have 2 bureaus, one in Washington, D.C., and another in Anchorage, Alaska. We have correspondents like Marionette Pember based across the country. She's traveled to Minnesota to cover land defenders and to the homelands of the Meskwaki Indians in Tama, Iowa, to cover the country's only caucus held on sovereign Indian land. And she's even featured Native youth.
I'm here on Madeline Island in Wisconsin, and this is a very important place for Ojibwe people. Behind me you see some boys and girls playing lacrosse, which is a traditional Ojibwe game. It's the creator's game. And I'm here covering a number of events, demonstrations of Ojibwe art and crafts and traditional teachings. This is the kind of thing that we cover at Indian Country Today.
Meet a few more of our staff.
Bonjour. My name is Dalton Walker. I'm the Deputy Managing Editor for Indian Country Today. I'm coming to you from the homelands of the Peeposh and O'odham people on the banks of the South River in what is known as the Phoenix Valley. Working for Indian Country Today is a blessing. Each day we get to report on issues that matter to you, to me, to all Native people and beyond. Miigwech.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Onawa Boycell. I am one of the producers and reporters for our TV broadcast team. I travel all over the United States. I've covered stories from Nebraska to Wisconsin, and even down in Oklahoma, where I'm actually from. One of my favorite memories is getting to go ice fishing up at the Potawatomi tribe up in Wisconsin, where I met a guide. His name was Ryan Alloway, and he took us out ice fishing. And I think the biggest thing that I saw was the community.
Caitlin also reported on a first responder in Oklahoma who donates his art to help other first responders. And she also spoke to the first Native American astronaut, John Harrington, about what it's like to quarantine in space. Our staff is committed to bringing you these stories from Indian Country, and we need your help.
Hi, I'm Shirley Snavy, Vice President of Broadcasting for ICT, and I am really grateful to be able to bring you stories like this. The statue behind me is Suzanne LaFlash Picot. She was the very first Native American doctor, man or woman. And she was on the Omaha Reservation and did amazing things for Native people. And we want to share these stories with you, and we can do that with your help. Please take some time to make a donation to IndianCountryToday.com. Thank you.
Supporting ICT is important because having informed communities reinforces tribal sovereignty.
We want to help educate people about Indian country, our people, our issues, and our victories.
Indigenous journalists hold newsmakers accountable and are the best defense against inaccurate portrayals. Thank you for your support.
You can see the passion for our work runs deep, and in the early case of Mark Trahant, the bug for news started at a young age.
When I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I don't know exactly when, I had a cartoon crayon newspaper that I delivered around the neighborhood. I do remember it was called The Sun, but I don't remember what kind of stories were in it or what I did other than with crayons.
He says both his father and grandfather loved to read and instilled that love in him.
I like the idea of being able to pick up different newspapers and seeing how the world was covered differently by, we used to get the Idaho State Journal and the Blackfoot Morning News and sometimes the Salt Lake Tribune, so we saw kind of a different variety of views. In addition to the crayon newspaper, a tour of the Idaho Falls Post-Register when I was in Cub Scouts. And I remember asking the editor what it would take to get a tribal member on the front page.
Now, just about every day, Indian Country Today posts a story featuring a Native person on the front page.
We're here on the campus of Arizona State University at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. One of the things that I think is important about ICT and building a partnership with Cronkite is we can offer internships. I think what's so extraordinary is if you look back since we started, several of the folks who came from internships or fellowships are now full-time employees.
That's another mission for us, to build that next generation of Indigenous journalists who know Indian country and can tell our stories, especially at this unique point in history. Never before has Indian country been so well documented from the perspective of Indigenous journalists.
Hi, my name is Max Montour, and I'm a newscast video editor here at ICT. What excites me most about being a part of this team is how we're all contributing to an archive. It is an Indigenous perspective captured through the pandemic. From our newscast to all of our digital stories, we're documenting how we all reacted and dealt with current events. Future generations will have the ability to look back and hopefully learn from moments like these. And with the help of our funders, we're only going to be able to capture more of what it was like to be Indigenous today. So thank you all for your help. It is greatly appreciated.